Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. What if I told you that building wealth doesn't actually require a six-figure salary or cutting out every fun purchase? Believe it or not, achieving better financial security than 95% of people is shockingly doable once you understand a few core principles and apply them consistently. At this point, I've worked with hundreds of people who used to feel like money would just slip through their fingers every single month. They felt trapped, constantly stressed, wondering why their hard work never seemed to translate into financial progress. But after shifting their mindset and putting a few systems in place, they went from living paycheck to paycheck to saving their first $10,000, building six-figure investment accounts, and most importantly, no longer stressing about money. Now, in this video, I'm going to break down a 90-day financial plan that you can follow week by week, and by the end of the 90 days, you won't just feel more organized. You'll have a foundation for actually building wealth, a system you can stick with, and real progress you can see in your bank account. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Before you can make progress with money, we need to take an honest look at what you're currently doing right now. The first week is going to be about getting brutally honest with yourself about where your money is actually going. Now, most people think they know exactly what their spending habits are, but it rarely matches what you see inside their bank statements. That's because when you're swiping a card or you're tapping your phone, it's very easy for you to lose track of how much money you're actually spending, especially with a credit card. That's why the first step is to do what every successful business does, and that is to track revenue and expenses. Now, do you think that Amazon has no clue about how much money they spend on shipping or packaging or how much revenue they bring in daily? Of course not. They know their numbers down to the penny, and if you want your personal finances to succeed, you have to treat your life like a business. So here's the actionable step. You want to pull up your last 3 months of financial statements. That's going to be every checking account, every savings account, every credit card, every loan payment, even money that has moved in and out. We need to see it. And yes, this part is tedious. And yes, you might feel some guilt when you realize you spent like $700 on Uber Eats or DoorDash, but that is why this exercise is the foundation of everything else. Once you've gathered all of your statements, you want to categorize each expense into 3 buckets. The first bucket will be fixed expenses. Now that'll be the essentials, things you have to pay every month. Things like your rent, your mortgage, utilities, groceries, car payments, insurance, maybe some subscriptions, things that help keep your life running. The next bucket will be discretionary expenses. Now that's going to be the fun stuff like eating out, shopping, vacations, things like that. Now these aren't necessary for survival, but they do make life feel more enjoyable. The last bucket is going to be debt payments. Now that can be student loans, that can be credit cards, that can be personal loans, or anything else that you owe. Ideally, you'll put all of this into a spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be fancy. The goal is just to know where your money actually goes, and you want to add it up by category and figure out your monthly average. Now, you can go to www.successwithstevensmith.com. I have a free budget calculator that you can download. This is what helped me save my first $10,000 on a low income. If your income were revenue and your expenses are your cost, then the leftover money is your profit, right? That is your savings rate, or that is your investment portfolio. If the numbers are depressingly small or even negative, you've just uncovered why you feel stuck. This single exercise will open people's eyes more than anything else. Like, I've seen people realize that they're spending $250 a month on Uber rides they didn't even notice, or like subscription services that they forgot about. And when they see it all laid out, they can't hide from it, and it's very easy to manage at that point. So by the end of week 1, your goal is simple. You want to know your numbers, know how much you spend in each category, and know what your actual savings rate is. This knowledge alone puts you ahead of most people, because most people are just flying blind. Week number 2 is basically cutting all the fat. Now you know your numbers, it's time to make them even better. So we're going to cut out all of the unnecessary spending, but not in a way that makes you miserable. The goal isn't to cut out everything, just to cut the fat. And here's how you do that. You want to take your budget calculator that you just downloaded. I have an example here on screen. You're going to then put your expenses from largest to smallest, and you're going to put them in each category. Look at the big categories first. For most people, rent is going to be the largest expense. And let's be honest with ourselves, moving to a cheaper apartment isn't always realistic, or if you have a mortgage, you can't just change your house. But sometimes if there is a way to do that, then you can. So if your rent is eating up, let's say 40 to 50% of your income, it might be worth considering a move or getting a roommate or negotiating with your landlord. But let's assume that you can't do that right now, so we're not gonna actually cut that. Take a hard look at your transportation cost. If you're spending, let's say, hundreds of dollars a month on Uber, ask yourself why. Is it convenience? Is it habit? If you cut just half of those rides out, maybe you can use public transportation, carpooling, or even just walking. Could you save $100 or even more than that every single month? Just by saving $100 every month, I mean, that's $1,200 in a year. Insurance is another category that people ignore. Most of us just kind of set it and forget it, even though companies are constantly changing their rates. So if you haven't compared car or renter's insurance in the past few years, you're probably overpaying. So a few phone calls or an online comparison tool, that might save you $50 to $100 a month instantly. Next up is eating out and shopping. Now these are sneaky budget killers. No one ever thinks they spend too much on takeout or any impulsive buys, but those things add up very quickly. The solution is not to cut them out entirely, okay? I'm not expecting you to just live on rice and beans, but the solution is to be more intentional. If you normally eat out, let's say 4 nights a week, maybe try cutting that down to only 2 nights a week. If you're buying random Amazon purchases every few days, maybe try giving yourself like a fun money allowance that's capped every single month. That way you still get to enjoy life, but you stay in control. And finally, subscriptions. Now you won't see that right here, but it's right around entertainment. It's kind of cut off at the bottom here on stream, but that's going to be things like maybe your gym membership that you may not use, a streaming service that you forgot about, apps that are quietly charging you $8 per month. You want to go through every subscription and ask yourself, do I actually use this? And if the answer is no, you can cancel that today. The point of week 2 isn't to become cheap, it's to trim away the expenses that don't actually bring joy in your life. Now, if you cut, let's say $400 per month, that's nearly $5,000 a year. That's enough to fund an IRA or to pay down debt faster. And the best part, you didn't have to work more hours or get a raise, you just stopped wasting money. By the end of week 2, you should have shaved down your expenses in at least a few categories. Again, even if it's just $100 per month, that is a huge win, because once you combine cutting expenses with the strategies that we'll cover in the upcoming weeks, your financial picture will start to change very quickly. For week number 3, we're going to automate your money. So by now, you know your numbers and you've trimmed some fat from your spending, but here's the thing. Knowledge and good intentions don't magically turn into action. If you rely on willpower alone to save and invest, you're probably going to fail, because humans are terrible at resisting temptation. If the money is sitting in your checking account, eventually you'll find a reason to spend it. That's why week 3 is all about automation. Automation is creating a system for you to manage your money. Now, the system doesn't get tired, it doesn't get emotional, it never forgets. Once you set it up, your savings and investments can happen automatically without you lifting a finger. The first step is to open a high yield savings account, one that's competitive and paying close to 4% or higher. That will be your short-term savings hub. That is the place for your emergency fund or anything that you have planned to spend within the next, let's say, 5 years or so. The difference in interest might not sound huge, but it does add up over time. $10,000 sitting in a high yield savings account at 4% would earn you $400 per year for doing nothing. I mean, that is free money for just ignoring it and just sitting it in this account. Next, set up automatic transfers. Every time you get paid a percentage of your paycheck, you should automatically move some money into savings and investments before you even touch it. Personally, I set mine to trigger the same day at the same time, and that is how I invest every single day. I dollar cost average into the market, into Bitcoin, every single day. Now, you might be asking, how much should you even automate? A good starting point is 10% of your take-home pay. And if that feels too tight, then start with 5% and you could work your way up. The most important part isn't the exact number, it's the consistency. Once it's automatic, you'll adjust your lifestyle around what is left in your checking account. And since you never see the money that you're saving, you won't miss it. Think about it like this. No one wakes up and complains like, oh man, I really missed that 20% of my paycheck that went to taxes this month. Now, you should complain about that, but that is for a completely different video. The point is this: in most of our individual minds, you never had it in the first place, so don't think about it now. If you automate your savings, this will always work the exact same way. By the end of week 3, you should have your high yield savings account open, and you should have automatic transfers scheduled for every paycheck from now on, and your financial growth will happen in the background while all you do is just live your life the same way you've been doing before. For week number 4, we're going to attack your debt. Now, if you're carrying balances at, let's say, 20% interest rate or higher, no matter how much money you save, this will derail your plans. So week 4 is all about making a plan to pay off your debt as aggressively as possible. Start by listing every debt that you owe. That can be credit cards, personal loans, anything with a balance. Write down the total amount, the minimum payment, and the interest rate. From here, you have 2 strategies that you can choose from. The avalanche method, that is where you throw all of your extra money at the debt with the highest interest rate first. Mathematically, this saves you the most money. The snowball method says that you should attack the smallest balances first, no matter the interest rate. Now, psychologically, that gives you a quick win and it helps you build momentum. Honestly, I don't really care which method you pick first, as long as you pick one and you stick with it. The key is to go beyond the minimum payments. Paying the minimum payment is like running on a treadmill. It's lots of effort, but no forward progress. If you add an extra $50, $75, or $100 to your payments, suddenly you're shaving off months or even years of payments. Also, consider setting up automatic payments toward your debt. That way you don't forget and you don't rack up any late fees. You want to treat it like a bill that must be paid every single month, because that's exactly what it is. Remember, the average credit card APR today is over 21%, and that means if you're carrying balances, you're basically throwing money away. Paying off debt is one of the only guaranteed investments in life that you can actually get more money out of it. If you knock out a card charging you 21% interest, you just earned yourself a 21% return. You can't show me any other investment that guarantees that. You just won't find one. By the end of week 4, you should know exactly how much you owe, which strategy you're using, how much extra money you'll pay each month, and from here, you're not just hoping that debt will magically disappear, you're actively crushing it. You're getting rid of this debt. Now, week number 5 is going to be building your emergency fund. Now, first, congratulations, because you've made it 1/3 of the way through your 90-day plan. However, an emergency fund is your financial shock absorber. It's the money that keeps your car breaking down from turning into a credit card nightmare, or an unexpected medical bill from wrecking your budget. Without one, every surprise becomes a disaster, and with one, you can breathe a little bit easier. Now, I know what you're thinking. How much do I actually need? Well, you've probably heard advice ranging from $1,000 to 6 months of living expenses, but here is how I would approach it. Step 1 is to hit the first $1,000 milestone. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, why $1,000? Well, because it covers most of life's smaller emergencies, like a flat tire or a last-minute plane ticket or an emergency dental visit. More importantly, it gets you out of the dangerous territory where one unexpected bill might force you back into debt. Also, psychologically, it's very powerful. You start to see yourself as someone who actually has money in the bank. Once you hit $1,000, the long-term goal is 3 to 6 months of expenses, but don't let that number scare you. It takes time, and right now we just want to secure the first milestone. Now, if you want to know how to get there quickly, you can use the savings that you freed up in week 2. You can redirect that $100 that you cut from like Uber or subscriptions or things like that, funnel that straight into your emergency fund. You can also sell any unused items around the house, like old electronics or clothes or furniture, or pick up a side hustle for a few weeks. Dog sitting, food delivery, freelancing, all of that stuff, it eventually adds up. And of course, you want to keep your emergency fund in that high yield savings account that we set up in week 3. That way it can still grow a little bit on its own while still being easily accessible to you. The peace of mind that you'll feel once you have $1,000 set aside is incredible, and instead of panicking when something goes wrong, you'll handle it like a pro, and that confidence will spill over into the rest of your financial life. By the end of week 5, your goal is clear. You want to have at least $1,000 saved, or if you already have that, maybe move to the 3 to 6 months of savings. That can be your goal. Either way, you're no longer living one flat tire away from disaster. Now, for week number 6, we want to start investing, but we want to do it the right way. Now, so far, we have focused on building a foundation. We cut expenses, we automated savings, we built an emergency buffer. But if we stop there, your money will only grow as fast as you can save it. And if you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, then you know that you'll never save your way to wealth. You need your money to grow on its own, and that is where investing will come into play. Now, don't panic. When most people hear the word invest, investing, they think about losing money. The goal is not to gamble, it's to build wealth steadily and predictably over time. Now, let's start with the basics. Historically, over the last 100 years, the stock market has delivered an average return of about 8 to 10% per year. That's better than bonds, that's better than gold, and it's even better than real estate in most long-term comparisons, and you don't need to be a financial wizard to benefit from this. The easiest way to invest is through something called index funds or ETFs. So instead of betting on one company, like putting all of your chips on Apple or Tesla or Nvidia, an index fund will spread your money across hundreds of companies all at one time. One of the most popular is the S&P 500 index fund. Now, this holds 500 of the largest companies in America, and that means with a single purchase, you own a tiny piece of Apple, Microsoft, Google, Coke, and hundreds of more companies. Now, this is powerful for a very simple reason. You don't have to pick a winner. You don't have to stare at charts. You just have to buy the fund consistently month after month and just let time do its thing. Now, here is a simple visualization. Imagine you invest $1,000 per month into an S&P 500 index. Over 30 years with average market returns, you would end up with roughly $1.5 million. Not by winning the lottery, not by flipping houses, by just being consistent and investing in the same thing and letting compound interest do its job. The most important part is to start right now. Even a small amount will benefit you. A lot of people wait until they have more money to invest, but that is backwards. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to compound. Even $100 a month, that can make a huge difference. If you want an in-depth video on this topic, I would start by watching my video on investing $100 per week in order for you to build wealth. That shows you how you can make $1 million just by doing this. So your week 6 action step is simple. You want to open a brokerage account. You can look at places like Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, E-Trade, things like that. You want to set up automatic transfers just like you did with your savings account, and you want to commit to investing a set percentage of your paycheck. It could be 5%, 10%, whatever you can afford, and you want to put that into a broad index fund or an ETF. Just think of this as planting a future money tree, and the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, and your future self will thank you. Now, week number 7 is for you to increase your income. Now, up until now, we focused on cutting costs and optimizing what you already have, which is very important, but you can only cut so much. There is a ceiling on how much expenses you can eliminate, but there is no ceiling on how much money you can earn. That's why week 7 is all about increasing your income. Now, this is where the real acceleration can happen. The first option is the simplest. You want to ask for a raise. I know that's easier said than done, but most people never even try. If you haven't had a raise in over 1 year, inflation alone has already eaten away your paycheck. That means even if you feel like you're making the same amount of money, in reality, you're actually poorer than you were 12 months ago. So do your homework and research what people in your role are already making. There are sites like Glassdoor that can give you real numbers. Then maybe schedule a meeting with your manager or present your case to somebody else and ask them. Even if they say no, you've planted that seed that you already know your value. And if they say yes, you just boosted your financial plan instantly. The second option for you is to switch jobs. Now, job hopping strategically every couple of years often results in 20 to 40% pay increases. That's money you'll rarely get by staying in one place. Of course, this depends on your industry, your personal goals, but it is worth considering if you feel underpaid or you feel stuck. The third option is side income. Now, in today's world, there are endless opportunities of freelancing gigs like writing, designing. You can sell products online. You can do Uber driving, DoorDash, flipping items on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, offering local services like tutoring, pet sitting, or even lawn care. Even a few $100s a month makes a huge difference when you're trying to funnel this money into a savings account or to pay off debt. Finally, consider learning a high income skill like AI prompting or digital marketing, sales, copywriting, product management. These skills can add thousands of dollars to your income per year. And you don't have to master these things overnight, but if you dedicate maybe a few hours per week to improving your value, the payoff can be massive. So the key thing about week 7 isn't to try to solve everything at one time. It's to identify at least one way for you to increase your income and commit commit to pursuing it. Because once you start playing offense instead of just defense, your financial growth will go into overdrive. Week number 8 is to set a concrete savings goal. So by week 8, you've cut expenses, you've automated savings, you started investing, you paid down debt, and you may have even made more income. So you're not just surviving anymore, you're building. And now it's time to aim that momentum at a specific target. The reason I'm saying a concrete savings goal is because a vague goal just doesn't work. If you just say, I want to save more, that's like saying, I want to be healthier. Like, it sounds good, but without a number attached to it, you'll never actually get on track with the plan. So pick a goal and make it very specific. Maybe you want to say $8,000 for a down payment on a house. Maybe it's building a $5,000 emergency fund. Maybe it's setting aside $3,000 for a business plan. Whatever it is, just put a number to it. Now break it down. Let's say your goal is $6,000 in 12 months. That's $500 per month. Suddenly that doesn't feel impossible. It feels manageable. And if you've been following this plan, you've already freed up hundreds from cutting expenses and possibly even boosting income. There's also a psychological hack here. Research shows that writing down your goals makes it 42% more likely that you're going to achieve them. And that's not motivational fluff, that is real data. So grab a notebook, write down your savings goal, and then tell someone about it. The accountability will push you to stick with it. And by the end of week 8, you should already know exactly what you're saving for, how much it will cost, how much you need to set aside each month to hit that goal. And suddenly saving your money is no longer abstract because it's tied to something meaningful, and that makes it 10 times easier for you to stay consistent. By week number 9, we're going to be mastering credit cards. Now, you've built up momentum, you've cut expenses, you've automated savings, you've paid down debt, you're investing. Now it's time for us to talk about the trickiest part of personal finance, and that's going to be credit cards, because credit cards are like fire. In the hands of someone disciplined, they can be incredibly useful. They can give you cash back, rewards, travel perks for spending money that you were already going to spend anyway. But in the wrong hands, credit cards can burn everything down. If you can't trust yourself to pay your credit card in full every single month, you should not be using one. Carrying balances on a credit card with a high interest rate is financial quicksand. You'll have to work so hard just to pay it down, and it will feel like you're sinking. But if you can handle that responsibly, credit cards can actually make you money. Imagine putting your groceries, gas, utilities, and other expenses on a card that gives you 2% cash back. You spend $2,000 a month anyway, now you're going to get back $40 for it. That's nearly $500 per year for doing nothing. And if you travel, the perks get even better. Maybe you can get free flights, hotel upgrades, lounge access. Basically, you're playing the game the credit card companies don't expect you to win. The real trick is to test yourself. If you're new to credit cards, start with a low credit card limit, use it for 3 to 6 months on basic purchases, and pay it off every single month. If you find yourself overspending or you're carrying a balance, then you just want to stop completely. The discipline has to come first, and the rewards can come second. And here's why this matters long term. Your credit score is a huge factor in your financial life, and payment history, which is the record that you pay on time, that makes up 35% of your overall credit score. So using credit cards wisely will help you build strong credit history, and that will improve your score. It'll also help you get lower interest rates on loans, higher credit card limits over time, and bigger financial opportunities like a mortgage or business funding. Now, if you're having issues with your credit score, I recommend you check out Rising. Now, Rising is an all-in-one DIY credit repair platform that not only gives you access to your credit reports and your scores, it also shows you what may be hurting your credit. It also helps you take actionable steps with tools like dispute templates, bureau response tracking, the auto mail feature that allows you to send your disputes directly from the site or the mobile app. It also includes 24 months of rental and utility trade lines that can back report payment history up to 24 months, and that can help add positive payment history up to 2 years, and that will add 2 years of account age to your credit profile. Right now, you can access your credit report through Rising's $1 7-day trial. There will be a link down down in the description. There'll also be a clickable link here on screen. So week 9 is to evaluate where you stand with credit cards and also check your credit report and make sure that everything looks good here. If you're not confident in your discipline yet when it comes to credit cards, then for now you can stick with debit cards until you've built better habits. Because ultimately the goal is for you to build great credit history that quietly opens the doors for you later to get better funding opportunities and maybe even scale your income through a business. Now, week number 10 is going to be all about tracking your net worth, because at this point you've got multiple moving parts. You've got savings, investments, debt payments, maybe even a side hustle. It can feel a little chaotic, and that is why we have to pull all of this together with one simple number. Now, your net worth is the scoreboard of your financial life. It's the total value of everything that you own, all of your assets minus everything that you owe, all of your liabilities. You want to add up your savings, your investments, if you have property, things like that, subtract your debt, and that is going to be your net worth. Don't worry if the number feels small or it's even negative right now. A lot of people start with negative net worth because of student loans, credit card debt. What really matters though isn't where you start today, it matters where you're going, and that is the reason why you want to track your progress over time. And this is why this exercise is very powerful. It gives you a long-term view. You might feel like you're not making progress because you still have bills every single month, but when you look at your net worth from 1 year ago and you compare it to today, you'll see the growth. Even a $5,000 increase is proof that you're moving in the right direction. I recommend updating your net worth at least quarterly. Some people like to do monthly check-ins, and that is completely fine too, as long as you don't obsess over short-term ups and downs in the stock market. The point is to keep yourself accountable. By the end of week 10, you should have your baseline net worth. You should have this written down somewhere and have a system put in place to update this regularly. It doesn't matter if it's a spreadsheet, an app, or even just a notebook, as long as you track it consistently. For week 11, we're going to review and we're going to refine. Now, here is something most people get wrong. They make some financial plan and then they never look at it again. That's like setting a GPS and driving for 3 months and never checking if you're going down the right road. By week 11, it's time to review exactly what you've done. Now, think back to week 1 and 2 when you analyzed and you trimmed your spending. It's been about 2 months since then, right? So you want to pull up your latest bank statements and you want to do the same exercise again. You want to review where your money is actually going. Did you stick with your cuts, or did sneaky things kind of creep back in? Maybe you thought you solved the Uber problem, but maybe it's back because you've been going out a little bit more. Or maybe you cut subscriptions, but then you signed up for 3 new services during a slow weekend. These things happen. The point is not to beat yourself up. The point is to catch the leaks and patch them before they become habits again. Also, checking on your savings and your debt payoff goals. Are you hitting those numbers that you planned for? If not, make small adjustments that can get you back on track. Week 11 is basically your mid-season review. You don't want to get all the way to the end of your 90 days only to realize somehow you veered off course. Spend like an hour this week and just fine-tune your plan. That way you'll finish strong. So here we are, the final week of your 90-day reset. If you've made it this far, you should already feel more in control of your money. But we're not gonna stop at in control. This week is all about looking beyond the basics and setting stretch goals for your future. Stretch goals are big, exciting targets that make all the day-to-day habits worthwhile. Maybe it's buying a house in 5 years. Maybe it's hitting $100,000 in your net worth. Maybe it's building a business or retiring early or traveling the world. These aren't things that you'll hit in the next 90 days, but they give you direction. So here's what I would do. Write down a 1-year goal, a 5-year goal, and a 10-year goal. Be very specific, like save $10,000 in year 1, buy a rental property in year 5, reach financial independence in 10 years. Just pick whatever excites you and whatever you feel is worth chasing. Once you've written them down, reverse engineer into smaller steps. So if you need $20,000 for a down payment in 5 years, that is $333 per month. If you want $100,000 invested in 10 years, figure out how much you need to contribute each month with compounding factored into that. Break the mountain into a hill and suddenly it feels very climbable. Finally, schedule regular check-ins. I recommend doing this quarterly. Put reminders in your calendar to review your finances at the end of March, June, September, and December. That way you don't lose momentum after this 90 days. By the end of week 12, you're not just surviving anymore, you have a system, you have momentum, and you have a vision for your future. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you followed all the way to the end, congratulations, because I'm sure most people never make it this far. They start with good intentions, they get distracted, and then they slip back into old habits, and then they get stuck with it. And you alone sticking with this puts you ahead of a majority of people. This 90-day reset isn't the finish line, it's the starting block. You now have the tools to understand where your money goes, to cut the waste, to automate your savings, to pay down debt, to build an emergency fund, to invest consistently, to grow your income, to track your net worth, and to aim for big goals with confidence. Now, wealth isn't built overnight, it's built day by day, week by week through consistency and discipline. But if you keep following this system 3 months from now, you'll be a completely different person in a completely different financial position. So here's my challenge. Don't let this just be something you just watched. Take action. Start with week 1. Even if it feels overwhelming, remember, you don't have to do this all at one time. Just take it step by step. And when you look back at this moment, you'll realize this was the turning point, the moment you decided to stop drifting and to actually start building. If you found this valuable, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. I have more videos coming just like this. I would love to keep talking about different ways to manage your finances and not just focusing on only credit. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You have a wonderful day.